The main argument of Plato's Republic, occupying approximately books 2 through 9, is the argument that, as Gregory Vlastos summarizes the Republic in 2 words, which is quite an accomplishment, justice pays. That is to say, justice pays off. Justice is worth it. The argument is developed using the analogy of the city to the soul. The city is described as having 3 classes. There's the philosopher kings, there's the military, and there's the working class, or the tradesmen. In the well-ordered city, the military has an alliance in which they support the philosopher kings, and they do this in order to keep the city governed properly, keep the working class in line. Now, this may or may not be to some degree, or to a large degree, or to no degree at all serious as a policy prescription for actual cities. The major goal is to understand justice writ large, and that is justice within the soul. The major goal is to understand the soul. Now, the soul has parts corresponding to these parts of the city. These parts are the rational, spirited, and appetitive parts of the soul. The rational part of the soul desires wisdom. The appetitive part of the soul is the bodily appetites for food, drink, sex. Also, more broadly speaking, it's the desire for physical things. So money is included here as well. The spirited part of the soul is what makes the difference between the two. It's what decides which way we go, which pursuit will govern our lives. Wisdom and reason, or money, food, drink, sex. The middle part of the soul is the spirited part of the soul. It's the part of the soul that gives honor to things. And in a well-ordered soul, reason recruits the spirited part of the soul so that we give honor to wisdom, we give honor to reason, we give honor to rationality, and this helps us keep the bodily appetites in line. Not, I think, with a goal towards eradicating them or repressing them, but governing them, leading them, guiding them, in part for their own good, but also for the good of the whole, for the good of the whole person, the whole integrated human life. This is the picture of spiritual or psychological harmony and health. And this is how Socrates, in Plato's Republic, teaches us that justice is something that can be in the soul. Justice has a foothold in the soul. Because the soul has these parts, we see that justice can be in the soul. Because justice is, well, here's how Socrates puts it, the having and doing of one's own. I believe I must credit Grube's translation published by Hackett for that phrase. The having and doing of one's own, that's what justice is. Now, since they are different parts of the soul and they have their own proper role and function, it does make sense to say that the having and doing of one's own is something that can be present in the soul. So justice can be present in the soul. And it is necessary that justice be present in the soul in order for us to have psychological or spiritual health, because only when these parts of the soul have and do their own can we possibly have a well-ordered soul, a properly functioning soul, a well-ordered life. And so happiness requires spiritual health or psychological health. And spiritual or psychological health requires justice. And so justice is necessary for happiness. And this is the argument that justice pays. This is the argument that justice is worth it. Now, understand what the significance of this argument is. The old idea that virtue is its own reward and that vice is its own punishment has deep roots. Some of those roots go straight through the heart of Plato's Republic. Justice is itself a state of mental or psychological or spiritual happiness, health, harmony. And so it is its own benefit. You could say it carries with it its own benefits, but it's probably just as accurate to say it is its own benefit. It is health within the soul. So justice is necessary. That's why justice pays. Now, this is all very interesting and very important. And it's a good start, but it's not everything. What about justice in interpersonal relations? If you've studied the Republic, you may recall early in the text, I believe in book 1, yes, definitely book 1, Thrasymachus objects to justice. And then I believe it's in Book 2 that Adeimantus and Glaucon take up a related objection to one of Thrasymachus' objections. The objection to justice that's developed here is that we do not do justice to others. We do not practice justice in our relations with others because we want to, or because we would like to, or because it makes us happy, or because it's good in itself. It's just a means to an end, and it's not very much of that either. It's mainly an unfortunate necessity we put up with because we don't have the power to do to others what we want to do to them and get away with it. If we had the power to do to others what we want to do to them and get away with it, that would be the life. That would be good. And that is something we don't have, and that's the only reason we have justice. Because we're not strong enough, or because we don't have the power of concealing our injustices so that we can get away with them. And so justice is sort of an unfortunate necessity. That's the objection to justice. Now Socrates is developing this argument to show that justice is worth it. Justice does bring with it. Justice is its own benefits. Well, that's all very well and good, but the challenge was, it seems, to justice in our interpersonal relationships, justice in our relationships with others, justice in community, justice in the city. How is that justified? How is justice in the city justified? By the insight that justice has a foothold in the soul. Well, I think there are several possible answers, many of which are consistent with Plato's Republic and, in fact, grow out of Plato's Republic. Here is a set of 3 answers I rather like. First of all, interpersonal justice, injustice, my just or unjust treating of others, may simply leave a mark on the soul. And so when I treat others justly or unjustly, it makes my soul more just or more unjust. And accordingly, the reward or the punishment for the justice or the injustice, respectively, will inevitably follow. Probably more importantly, the rightly ordered soul has no motivation for injustice. Why do people do injustice? It's because they want money or power or fame or physical pleasures. That's why people commit injustices, for the sake of these things. While the rightly ordered soul gives honor to wisdom, it is governed by wisdom. The spirited part of the soul guarantees that the bodily appetites are kept in line. What motivation is left for injustice? A rightly ordered soul, a soul which is just, does not commit injustice because there's no need, there's no motive to commit injustice. Justice in the soul is a sufficient condition then for justice in relations with others. Now that's pretty good, but I think we can also say more. Here's what is, I suspect, a more important answer even than that. A reason that justice in the soul is a reason for justice in our relationships with others. The metaphysics in the middle books of the Republic suggest that a just soul is one that loves wisdom, and that wisdom, insight into the nature of reality, requires that we treat others justly. This is one of the insights of the lesson that in that city Plato describes, or Socrates anyway, the philosopher kings are the only ones fit to rule. They know metaphysics. And it is this knowledge of metaphysics which gives them the ability to administer justice in the city. And it also seems to compel them to administer justice. This tells us that a soul which knows wisdom is a soul which administers justice. A soul which knows wisdom is a soul which administers justice. Justice is the having and doing of one's own. And for each thing, what is its own is determined by the nature of that thing. This means that reality both determines the requirements of justice and requires justice. Metaphysics sets the parameters of ethics. So a soul knowing wisdom, which is a soul knowing reality, is a soul which is required to administer justice in relations with others as well as within itself. So, of course, a soul loving wisdom is a soul that will do this very thing. Even if it loves but does not yet know wisdom, it will do this as much as possible. And that is why justice in the soul, well, that is a third reason, justice in the soul is a reason for justice in the city.